Today, we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and respond right here on the show. Today, the wife of Jason Cleereman, the victim in the road rage shooting trial we have been covering here on Court TV, took the stand to tell her side of the story. We asked our viewers, did her testimony help or hurt the prosecution? Still with me this hour, appellate attorney and trial attorney Matthew Barhoma. All right, Matthew, let's get to our comment. The first one comes from Claffy Ciccarella. She says, there's something different about her. I don't know that I trust her. You know, that's interesting because that's kind of the reaction I had, Matthew. I thought she was credible, some of the things she said, but I also thought there was this part of her that, I don't know if I want to say rehearsed, but clearly she was trying to make a point. There was some discrepancies in how she was testifying, always coming out in her favor now that she's testifying. I don't know, your thoughts.
I agree with you, actually, Michael. I don't know what to do with her exactly. There are times that I really think that, you know, she is credible and gives really good information. Other times, I wish she just wouldn't be so defensive, you know, like when she talks about this, this Delcer, admit that it's a White Claw. We know what, the remnants of the car by trial. So, ultimately admitting it, could really help you. Another thing about her is she could be a little dry around the edges sometimes. And I think that's her personal side. And when you bring that to bar, a lot of times people can misconceive that and think maybe you don't care or maybe you're not trying to tell the story. When in reality, she's really just being herself. So I understand this kind of comment. And I feel like a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the trend online was people were not trusting her, which, again, like I said, I felt the same way, but I was still surprised to see that so many people didn't quite trust her. Our next comment comes from Yvonne Laird. Yvonne says, I cannot muster any sympathy or empathy, and I don't know why. And I think, Matthew, that's the perfect comment because that's exactly how I feel. But here's the point. How important is that? Because I think ultimately the likability and trustability, she's saying things like we both say, it seems credible, but you don't necessarily like her or trust her or feel empathy or sympathy. How does that affect how you're taking in the information?
Yeah, I agree. I really hope that does not, disguise things for the jury. I hope that they're paying attention to, more important things, such as really what's coming out of her mouth and what are the facts, really about this. Now, with that being said, drawing up the empathy, the sympathy, it's very important because you're going to have to get these jurors to empathize with one side, and that's ultimately how they're going to rule.
All right, our next comment comes from Molly on Twitter. Molly said, what's odd how she remembered crystal clear that he didn't say follow him, yet she couldn't remember him opening his door. There were, again, those little discrepancies. Now, I think the jury will sort of dismiss those as, shock, and you can't remember every little detail. But again, I think ultimately a lot's going to depend on Theodore Edgecomb, and it might end up being her against him ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I got to go back and say sometimes her testimony does feel very coached. It feels very rehearsed. She says some things on cue, very much so. And so ultimately, how much is that going to play a factor? You're absolutely right. Let's wait and see, what the defendant maybe has to say for himself.
Absolutely, and that should be coming up on Monday. All right, Matthew Barhoma, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Always appreciate you on the show. We'll have you back again soon. I'm Michael Ayala. It's been a pleasure being with you. Coming up next on Closing Argument.